Aha! Mr. Rat. Mr. Rat was a horrid fellow, cruel and cunning. He was always hungry, and he loved to find the nests of the birds and eat their eggs or young ones. He loved to sniff out the nest of the little dormice and gobble up their babies. He would even pounce on a young rabbit if it was all alone. Mody the mole walked along the bottom of the ditch weeping. She did not often walk above ground, for she loved to tunnel below the earth. But this morning she forgot about burrowing and scuffled along in the ditch. "What is the matter?" asked Bobtail the rabbit, putting his pretty head out of a hole nearby. Oh, Mr. Rat has found my nest in the field," wept Mody Mole, "and he has eaten all my new little babies. He hasn't even left me one." "The wicked fellow," said Bobtail, their nose waffling up and down. "It is time he was punished." "He should be eaten up himself," said Spiky the Hedgehog, curling himself where he lay at the bottom of the ditch. "I would eat him myself if I could find him, yes I would." There came the sound of a laugh in the hedge, and all three creatures stiffened with fear. They knew that squealing laugh. It was the snicker of the rat himself. "So you would eat me yourself, would you?" said Mr. Rat, putting his long nose out of the edge. "Come along then, Spiky, come and eat me. Or you, Bobtail. Or you, Mody Mole. I'm here." Bobtail the rabbit disappeared down his hole. Mody Mole dug a tunnel in the ditch and sank into it as quick as lightning. Spiky the Hedgehog curled himself up tightly and lay there quite still. The rat ran out and sniffed at him. "You would not be so bold if you hadn't your armour or prickles," he said to the Hedgehog. "I will go and tell Fox to come and get you." He ran off. Spiky was full of fear. He did not like the fox because Reynard could make him uncurl by making himself smell so horrid that in disgust the Hedgehog felt he must crawl away. And as soon as he uncurled himself to crawl away from Reynard's dreadful smell, the fox would seize him. Spiky hurried away and hid himself in a hole in the bank. It was only just big enough for him, and had a ferny curtain hiding the entrance. He felt safe there. Mr. Rat snickered softly to himself as he ran about the hedge and slunk over the fields. He was king of the countryside. He was lord of all the creatures of the hedge and ditch. Soon there would be dozens more rats, for in nests here and there young ones were growing up. Aha! Mr. Rat would teach them how to hunt for the nests of young mice, for the soft-spined young hedgehogs, for the nestlings in the hedges, for the lizards that darted about the sunny side of the bank, and even for the frogs that lived in the long green grass by the pond. Mr. Rat was very fond of eggs. He had sucked dozens that he had found in nests in the hedgerow. He knew how to glance upwards as he ran along the hedge bank, and spy nests hidden cleverly here and there. Then up he would fly and stick his sharp grey nose into the nest and gobble up the eggs there. Many a robin, thrush and blackbird had come back in haste to her nest and had found all her eggs gone. Mr. Rat even went down to the farm and stole the eggs in the henhouse. He had many ways of doing that. He would slink into the house through a hole he knew well and suck an egg in the nesting box. He would perhaps take one away with him too, to store in his hole. It was marvellous the way he managed to get it out of the nest without breaking it. Then he would roll it over and over to the hole he had entered by. He would push it through this hole and then roll the egg to his nest. Sometimes two rats stole the eggs together. Then one would turn on his back and hold the egg, and the other would pull him along. Ha! Mr. Rat was the cleverest creature in the kingdom. But one day he made a great mistake. He was looking out for eggs as usual. He had eaten two belonging to the hedge sparrow. They were as blue as the sky, but very small. The rat swallowed them, but still felt hungry. He wondered if there were any eggs in the hole in the ash tree that stood at the corner of the field. He knew it was partly hollow inside. Once a squirrel had nested there. Then Mr. Rat had a fine feast of young squirrels. Once a woodpecker had nested there, and Mr. Rat had eaten every egg she had laid, till in despair she left the tree and flew away to the fine wood on the hill. Yes, Mr. Rat would see if any bird had nested in the ash tree this year. He ran up to it, slinking along in the nettles that grew in the ditch. He climbed nimbly up the trunk. It was night time, but the moon was out, and Mr. Rat could see quite well. He came to the entrance of the hole. He sat there and sniffed. Yes, some bird was nesting there. The nest smelt of bird. Mr. Rat caught sight of something white in the hole. An egg. He slipped down and got it. It was good, but only one egg. How disappointing. Never mind, perhaps there would be others in a day or two. There were. In 2 days there was another egg. Mr. Rat ate that. In a week's time there was another. Mr. Rat ate that. 4 days after that there was another, and Mr. Rat had that too. Now the bird who owned the hole in the ash tree that year was a little owl. She was puzzled to find that her eggs disappeared so mysteriously. She was a young little owl and had never laid eggs before. She told her mate about it, and he hissed solemnly. "Someone has been stealing them," he said. "Maybe it is the grey squirrel. He is a robber. Or maybe it is the thieving jackdaw. He loves other birds' eggs. We will find out." It was the dormouse who told the little owl who the robber was. "It is Mr. Rat," said the little dormouse from the shelter of the hedge. "Do not catch me, little owl, for I come to warn you of the robber. He stole my own little ones before they had even opened their eyes. No one is safe, not even you, little owl." The little owls hissed angrily. So that was the robber who had stolen their eggs. This must be seen to. "Are there many rats here?" said the owls. "Oh, very many," answered the frightened dormouse. "His families are all growing well now. Soon there will be 100 and more rats running about here, and we will all have to flee away. But they will follow us, so we shall be no better off." The owls hissed again and flew away. Here many little owls nested and brought up their young ones, but lately there had been little food for them because the weasels had been about and had eaten much of the food that the little owls wanted for their youngsters. The 2 little owls called their friends. "Quee-oo, quee-oo, quee-oo," they called. "Quee-oo." "Tip-eep, tip-eep," answered their friends, and from far and near the little owls flew down to the trees, where the 2 sat who had come from the faraway wood. "Whew, whew," said the 2 owls. "We come to tell you of much food in a wood far off. Bring your little ones here as soon as they are grown. There are rats by the score in the wood, we know." "We will come," cried the owls. "Tvip, tvip." So in 3 weeks' time, when the young rats were half grown and were filling the countryside with fear and panic, a great flock of little owls came to the wood nearby. With them they brought their half-fledged youngsters, still downy but with claws that could shut like a trap. "Whew, whew," called the little owls as they flew about the wood. They saw the grass move a little in the pale moonlight. Down swept an owl and fixed a young rat in its claws. The rat squealed but could not get away. Another owl dropped like a stone onto a full-grown rat, and it had not even time to squeal. "Tee-pee, tee-pee." "We have feasted well," cried the owls that night as they flew to trees to hide away for the daytime. Mr. Rat was scared to find that so many owls were about, but he said to himself, "Am I not king of the countryside and lord of the hedgerow? I am afraid of nobody." He had a fine wife, and she had a litter of 7 small rats that Mr. Rat was proud of. His wife would only let him peep at them, for she was afraid he might eat them. Rats did eat their own children sometimes, she knew. Mr. Rat ran to warn her to keep close hidden. The next night a little owl saw a movement in the grass near the pond. He pounced, and there was a scuffle. He had caught Mother Rat, and nearby in the hole he could hear the little one squealing. He hooted to his comrades, and in a trice they came and ate up all the young rats. And then it was Mr. Rat who ran along the ditch wailing and weeping for his lost family. But no one heeded him or comforted him. The rabbit was glad, the mole laughed, and the hedgehog grunted and said to himself, "Do as you would be done by, Mr. Rat. You are being served the same way as you served us." There was a squeal in the night. A little owl had caught Mr. Rat himself. "Ah, Mr. Rat, that's the end of you." "So it was you who ate all my eggs, was it?" cried Little Owl as she held Mr. Rat in her sharp claws. "Let me go, and I'll never do such a thing again," squealed the frightened rat. "You will never do such a thing again anyhow," said the owl as she ate him up. That was the end of Mr. Rat, and as for the few rats that were left, they fled from that part of the country in terror. And now the rabbit, the mole, the mice, and the hedgehogs go about in peace and happiness. "Aha, Mr. Rat, you were a bit too clever when you ate the eggs of the little owl."